Okay, I've got the top of the hour. I think we can get started. Well, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're located, and welcome to the Domino Volt Show the Code session. So with me today, I've got Rob Lintern, who's the development manager, and of course, my name is Marty Leckletter. I'm the product manager for Domino Volt. Now, if you were at the roadmap presentation yesterday, you heard a bit about some of the features in the upcoming release. Well, in this session, we're going to take a look at those features in detail. And at this point, what I'd like to do is turn it over to Rob, who's going to do all the demoing. Take it away, Rob.
All right. Thanks, Marty. Yeah, we're going to concentrate in this session, try and go through quickly features of the upcoming release, which is ETA is December, so a month from now. And these are things that are very near to completion. So I'm going to give you a demo of what we've got going on today. I'll switch over to my Chrome, my browser, and start going through some of the my hit list features here. First thing on the list I've got is we've introduced on the manager page now under the more link here, we've got a new action item history. So for any application, we're tracking, what's happening with that application, when was it last saved, when was it last deployed, who performed the action, and what time. So this is it's quite helpful for especially if you have multiple developers working on the same application, that they can coordinate or at least get some feedback on who's changed the application when. Another new feature that we've got is the ability to add new themes to the product. So this is like an extension point where Volt administrators can add any new theme to the product they like. Here's this example of a theme that I've added to this Volt instance. And the idea here is that any company that has Volt or anybody who has Volt can extend it and create their own theme. Possibly it's a theme that has some corporate branding or just has a look and feel that's standardized across the organization. The way that you actually add a theme to the application, like our other configuration settings, it's some properties that you add to the Volt config application in the Notes client. Theme has a name. You specify whether or not you want it to be the default. And the important thing here is that the location of the theme, it points to a CSS file. So there's no special proprietary format or anything here. It's just you tell us where your CSS is, and we'll make sure that that gets applied to any running application. And no restrictions on that. It's whatever the browser can handle. Obviously, the CSS has to be accessible to all your end users. And I'll just quickly demo. I'm going to create a new app. I've selected the custom theme. I'll add a couple widgets to my app and show it in preview mode. And there you can see that this is definitely not one of the out-of-the-box themes. So that new custom theme is applied here. Also includes like a custom font as well, which probably doesn't come across, but that is a different font. Okay, so next up we've been doing quite a bit of work on looking at usability and styling in the product. One of the biggest outcomes of that is that we have pushed the properties over to a side panel here. Instead of the properties being in dialogues where you're popping in and out of dialogues all the time, we call it dialogue fatigue. The properties are on the right-hand side, so anytime I select a widget, the properties will update. And that's, it's something that you kind of expect in any authoring tool, or it's a pretty normal paradigm. We've also done some work to actually clean up properties in here a bit, do some more, a bit nicer styling. And let's see, we also have an icon here to represent what kind of widget you're working with, which is helpful. And the ID field we've decided to bring up to the top for anybody who's created a more complicated Volt application. You start understanding how the IDs become important to give your elements proper IDs. So we've brought that up to the top. So in general, we're going to continue this work, continue restyling, and just generally trying to make improvements in the look and feel of the product. One bigger feature in this release is there's a new widget on the palette, the name picker widget, and it does kind of what it says, is that you can add it to your form, and the general idea is that you can start typing in. To type ahead, you can type in and get results back from your directory, corporate directory. So it's whatever directory Domino is linked to, you'll get results for. It will search for users and groups. And once you've picked a value, you'll see that it's displayed here in a nice sort of way. It also understands email addresses. If I search for something that's in a person's email address, or I search by their nickname, it will find those entries as well. And I'll just show you a few more things about this at runtime. Is that it's like any other widget in Volt. Is that you can also make sure the value of it is echoed in a rich text item. It can participate in services. It's there for if you want to use it with the JavaScript API as well. Let's just launch this application. So here at runtime, I can type in a value. I'm going to pick one of the results. And a couple of things happened when I did that. It's echoed the value over here. It's turned it into a mail to link in this case, because this person actually has an email address. The other thing that's happened here is I've got some custom JavaScript, which can actually get some of the attributes of the user that's been picked. We haven't exposed all attributes yet through the JavaScript API, and we'd love to hear from you guys about what kinds of things you may expect to be able to get a handle on. The other thing that's happened here, as I picked this user, is I made a service call in the back end there to get this person's manager, and populated this other name picker field with that person's manager. So it can fully participate in the ecosystem of a Volt application. The other place where this becomes useful making service calls is also the ability to assign a user to a role. So based on this person, Daisy Designer, who's been picked, that you could do a lookup, get that person's manager, assign that manager to an approver role in the application. Another feature that's new in this release is the ability to add attachments to email notifications. So here we have, there's a attachment widget on the form here. If I go into my stage actions, I have a send email action, and you'll see this new section here where you can decide whether or not you want to include an attachment with the email notification. So here's an example of that running, is that I will attach PDF to an application. I submit it. Go to my email client. And here we have this email that just came in. That document that I attached to that record is showing up now in this email. And you'll notice also in this email that the values that were picked in those name picker fields on the form also show up in the email here, and they're also turned into mail to links in the email. There's a couple of things, other things to get through here. There's a new option here under settings, so the ability to opt in for your Volt app to do full text indexing, and that's important for searching, and where that service is on the view data page. You can create a search filter where you can use the contains operator, so to search for a particular word in any records that match. So if the application has full text indexing turned on, you'll now see these new operators, contains and does not contain. So I can search for a particular word that shows up and here's the word red that I've searched for. So just the matching records there. Another thing that's a little more data centric here is that we've added another property to fields. Most fields have a new property, a sort option, so you can decide whether you want your field to be sortable. Again, it's an opt-in, and you can have it, either direction or both directions. And the way that shows up at runtime is, fairly obvious, is that if you've decided a field is sortable, you can click the column header here to sort by that field. And the contains operator and the sorting, they're all available through the REST API as well. So one last thing that I wanted to get to was the services error handling here. We've done generally some improvements on error handling, better error messages, just improving our error handling in a general way as well as in specific cases. There was one thing that I want to show quickly, is that for service call failure, we've now given you more control over what happens when that service call fails. This includes two things. One is that the error you get back may have a code with it that you can actually key off of. Now this is getting away from the no code or low code into more of the mid code, but the idea is you can handle the error any way you like and stop the generic service call failure error from appearing. I'll just show you how that looks. Is that here's an error that happened that I decided to put my own custom message too. And so those are things that are coming in 102. There's a bunch of other smaller things. There's performance improvements. There's we've been doing a lot of work on the automation side and really doing a lot with our SVT and PVT scenarios, and generally, and we've done quite a bit of work. Things that you won't see is all the work we're putting in towards the next release of Volt. So you'll see those in a few months' time. And also, we've improved our automation testing and just generally fixing any bugs we found. So I think I'm done. It's 8:15.
That is fantastic. That's fantastic, Rob. And as predicted, we used up the full 15 minutes. Your questions are important. We have them, and we will respond to them. So thank you for the questions.
Yeah. Thanks for attending, everybody.